Dad, thanks for joining me today.
Absolutely.
Man, you're the second guest now as an introduction from Matt Popper, and it just gets me excited to talk about what we have to talk about today and get to know you a little bit more because Matt Poppert is one of my favorite people, and I said it on the last episode. That was an introduction from Matt, which is his brother Paul. And I'll say it again: if you have not checked out Matt's episode, please go back and do so. But Thad, why don't we start by giving a little bit of background on you, what you do, and how you got to where you are.
Sure. No, yeah. And Matt's an incredible human. So no doubt about it. I appreciate the opportunity. You know, I am heavily focused in the dental world. When I tell people what I do, they're kind of shocked. Like I didn't even know that was a thing, right? I mean, when you talk to entrepreneurs, it's amazing how you can make a living doing different things. But my niche is strictly in dental, and I also own a vet company. But we do basically business brokerage for retiring dentists or veterinarians across the country. So it's a personal service company. They've usually their life work, and they turn it over to us to help find interested buyers. If it's an individual, like a younger version of them, or if it's a corporation or a private equity firm or group. I mean, there's a lot of options. Unfortunately, both of these professions are doing very well, and they trade uh, very well just because they are in need. I mean, everybody has. Since COVID, everybody bought a dog or a cat, and then obviously most everybody has a good set of teeth, and they value a good smile.
What was the and sorry for interjecting here early on. What was the similarity between those two, debt or vet and dental? Excuse me,
Yeah.
that made you want to go down that path.
Well, I always felt like I wanted to do veterinarian. I didn't have much experience in it. I mean, I've been in the dental industry for 28 years, but we had such success in using a process to do this. And a lot of our competitors, I believe, they just kind of are like, okay, this is what you want. I'll go get it. Right. Where we take a step-by-step process. We use the same process with both groups. It's called a trusted transition process. It's something I came up with. And in doing that, it just provides another layer of value to our clients, and they're very similar. I mean, it's interesting. The dentist and the veterinarian, they wear so many hats in their business. They're like the CEO, they're the head of HR, and they're that person on the line actually doing the work. So it's very complex. It's difficult, and it's most difficult when it's time to sell because most of these transactions are highly confidential. So they don't have time to meet with people or find people or interview people or vet people. That's what we do. And then we put them in front of them, and then we get into the process of, is this the right fit for your patients, for your staff, for the community that they serve.
Yeah, I've got my COVID dog sitting right next to me right
Yeah.
now. So I got a 10-year-old one over there laying across the room, and then the COVID dog laying right next to me. So hopefully they behave for the rest of this episode.
Yeah, my mother, who turned 80 last weekend during COVID, she always wanted a standard poodle, like an 85-pound standard poodle. And 4 years ago, she bought one. It's amazing, but she's thrilled that she's in her life, and my parents take care of this massive dog at age 80. It's
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah, that's my grandparents did the same exact thing. They're a little bit older, but it's kind of terrifying when you see this 100-pound golden doodle on a leash with a 85-year-old woman that weighs 110 pounds maybe, but it works. So uh, let's talk about maybe how you got into the brokerage world and how you've been able to build a business, because I think that's going to get us to the meat and potatoes of this conversation.
Sure. Well, it was one of those scenarios where I had exposure to this business but wasn't in it. So I was a general manager with a Fortune 500 company called Patterson Dental, a distributor. So we worked with dentists, helping them build practices, helping support their teams, service their equipment, all those different things. We're very comprehensive, but did not do transitions. So I was around, my dentist who needed help. And when I started this, it was in the time of like LinkedIn was coming on, and Match.com, all these different things. So there was a way to connect with the young dentist who was looking for cars. They were buying cars online, they were meeting spouses online, they were doing everything through the internet. There was no real way to for them to connect with interested sellers in a confidential way until we created DDS Match, where they could create a profile, look for opportunities, and that it wasn't just the technology that connected it, but it connected me to those buyers, which could essentially connect them to my sellers. We only represent the seller, but we help the buyer along. We get them connected to other advisors so they can make the right decision for their family.
Yeah, and let's dive into that tech just a little bit because in my conversations with Matt, I don't think that's something that we've ever hit on. Obviously, I know his networking capabilities and generally what he does on a day in day out basis, but what does that tech look like in terms of the dentist going in and creating a profile and then reaching out to them, um, you know, putting two profiles together that makes sense, et cetera.
Sure. Well, when they come to our website, there's all the opportunities we have, and right now we have, I know it's about 700 opportunities across the country of different, if it's an associateship like a job, or if it's purchasing a $3 million dental practice, those are all on the site. So if they come to the site and look at it and they want more information, they have to create a profile and click on the confidentiality agreement, NDA. And once they do that, they create a simple profile. They click on the areas they want to be. So if they want to be in Charleston, South Carolina, Atlanta, Georgia, Indianapolis, and Las Vegas, they can click on all those cities. And then when my DDS Match colleagues, our professionals across the country, when they create a profile, that buyer or potential buyer gets notified that there's an opportunity. And then it all just links into our CRM. It links into our inbox. I've got an in-house, my director of software, who wrote the web. I mean, we started it 15 years ago with a company, and then I hired the person who actually did the latest version of the website and brought him in-house. And we're doing some incredible things that allow us to even be stickier with our buyers to make sure they're aware of opportunities, because they're busy too. I mean, all of our buyers are full-time employees working probably 50, 60 hours a week in dental practices. They're working for a corporation, or they're working in a different environment. So it's hard to connect with them also. And this is an easy way for them to go to their phone, find opportunities, and click on it and say, hey, I want some more information on this. It's all through that comprehensive smart website that Ryan created for us.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, one of the biggest obstacles, I guess, in our business is just getting information, right? And then once you have the information, how do you sift through it? So, from y'all's perspective, you know, you're obviously gathering a lot of data. You have 700 opportunities across the country. What does that look like internally in terms of sifting through that data to find the items that are most relevant?
Yeah, well, the 700 opportunities are essentially split up between our 50 people in the field. So each of our DDS Match professionals and DVM Match professionals, they have their book of business. This is just an opportunity for them to post their opportunities on the website, and then they manage that communication and connection with the buyer and walk through the process, like I mentioned, that gets it to a closing.
Yeah, makes sense. I was on my honeymoon a couple of weeks ago, and we did a boat tour with just a group of people, and there happened to be a dentist on there, and I gave you guys the shout out. So maybe he'll be either one of the 700 opportunities or one of the prospective buyers. I don't know. I didn't dig in too much
Absolutely.
here in the near future. But let's talk about what it's like scaling and building a business, because as most of the listeners know, it's not easy. Um, and we all have a certain skill set that we bring to the table. Um, but the direction I kind of want to take this, and that you alluded to in our opening conversation, was building a team around you that can complement your skill set. and bring different strengths to the table. So, what are kind of your top three takeaways of looking at the business that way, or top three suggestions that you would have for someone that's currently trying to scale a business in their life?
Absolutely. Well, and I think there's tremendous power in relationships. I read a book 20 years ago called "Love Is the Killer App," and it's kind of a random title. It doesn't really talk about love or anything like that. It's probably in the wrong section of the bookstore. Not that there's bookstores anymore, I guess, but I'm aging myself. But it just talks about being able to work with other people in their industry, helping them grow while you're growing. I actually was, I didn't have any employees the first 11 years of doing this, but I had great connections with people in this industry that helped me do this. Like when we bring on a client, we have a third party business valuation done. So we've got great partners. Blue and Company is a company on our dental side, and then on the vet side, it's KSM, Cat Sapper and Miller. They're both here in Indianapolis, but they have a broad reach. So those are some of the connections I made without having employees. I always had third party people that helped me, but until like 3 or 4 years ago, that's when I started hiring people. But 9 years ago is when I started the franchise, and that's how we grew. That's how we scaled across the country. So I took my process, my technology, and worked with my attorney, and we came up with a franchise disclosure document. And we've been an active franchise for 9 years that brought on all these people. So that is great in the fact that they're not employees. And I think we've done an incredible job. I've got such great people like Matt Poppert and other people that even though they own their own business, we all treat it like we're fellow colleague employees. And, we have a Monday call. It's just coming up in a few hours, and everybody joins in, and it's all voluntary. They don't have to be there. And we share success, we share techniques, we share a lot of things in our DDS match and DVM match world to help each other. And I think creating that culture where they don't have to be there, but they want to be there, is a challenge that we're doing a really nice job with.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, give Matt my best on that call if
Yeah,
he chooses to join.
yeah,
So you're the first franchisor that I've had on the podcast. What made you decide to go that route?
yeah. It's a good question. We actually were approached by a couple companies early on about uh, selling, but it just didn't feel like the right thing. And I went through it with a couple different advisors. My attorney, David Durham, he's with Barnes and Thornburg. We talked through it, and it was his idea to get connected to his franchise person. And you know, I just felt like I felt very confident in our process, how my business had grown. Cause I did this, like I said, on my own for about 6 years before we franchised. So I had a number of practice transitions under my belt. The website was growing, we were doing things very well. So I just felt like I could, because I didn't want to expand too far out of my realm. I still have clients in Indiana and Louisville and part of Kentucky, but any further out from that, it's pretty hard to, meet with a client after hours and really get deep with them, because I may only have 25 clients at a time, which is a lot. But it's a very intimate business, and you can't just say, "Oh, I'm going to just take on clients in Chicago or Columbus, Ohio, or New York City." It's impossible, because you got to be knee to knee with the clients to do this right. And that's where I felt like, if I could duplicate what I had and put some rules around it. And what's great about it in FDD is it keeps me honest too. I've got to provide a service because I'm saying I'm doing that, and obviously they have to do the same thing. So it's a nice contract with someone to say, hey, this is how we're going to do it, and we encourage you to do the same, and we have to do the same too. And we're telling the Federal Trade Commission we have to do this. So that whole scenario has been great, just because I've just seen such success out of entrepreneurs who weren't entrepreneurs before they did this. None of my 40, we've got over 52, 53 people doing this, but none of my 47 franchise owners owned a franchise before this. None of them. It's not like somebody who owned a Subway decided to buy a DDS match or DVM match franchise. So, they have to learn how to run their own business. And, I feel like I give some advice to that, but we are growing together for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And what are you looking for in potential franchisees? Because obviously, like you said, it is a very important partnership, and they've got to have a certain buy-in into your process. But I'm sure they probably bring their own thoughts and processes to the table as well. What is it that you're looking for that partnership?
I think it's most critical that they have clients in the area, not necessarily clients, but relationships in the area. Again, I've had a few different people that came from outside the industry, just a couple, and it's a longer runway for them, and it's a significant investment and time and energy, and you know you don't open and start making money right away. It takes time because of the way it works, but it's important that they know clients in their area that could be a client of ours, and that's really been the main thing.
Yeah, what does that runway look like generally in terms of getting up to speed?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that the first year is very lean. You're making half or a third of what you made as an employee, but then the second year, you should be matching what you left, and then the third year you should be doubling what your the income you made before, and
Yeah.
then there's no top end.
So let's get back into the who, not how, if you
Mm-hmm.
will, conversation. In your experience, what is it that stands out from a more, I guess, I don't know what the right word is, but the as a person when you're looking for these types of relationships, how are you trying to build a team of strengths that complement you well?
Yeah, and the Who Not How is a book by Dan Sullivan. I was part of Strategic Coach for a number of years, and they helped me build my process. And it's just a great entrepreneurial coaching program. And he wrote a book called Who Not How, and it really struck me because we can always get in the weeds and get into spreadsheets and get into how does this work, and should I be adding this employee, should I not, should we invest in this? And he really just talked about if you have the right person, most of that really works out. And taking care of them and getting them on board, and um, that concept, I think, is with any business for sure. And for me, our growth in our company has been through, if I bring on somebody solid that takes over an area and they're doing well, and they say, you ought to talk to so and so. It's just kind of grown. It's really grown from there. And honestly, even back to when I was a general manager at Patterson, I hired a lot of people that, you know, if they were doing well and they knew the business, I would always go to them first, like, hey, who do you know? Before I read this book, like, who do you know that you were maybe in college with or whatever that would be good in this business, and gone from there. Versus somebody maybe with the technical skill, it's really more like if they've got the relationship skills, and they've known them for a long time. That's been the biggest. Because you put those people in the room together, they both want to do well, because they were given that opportunity or introduced by the other person.
Yeah, absolutely. You hear the idea of success in terms of looking at more attitude and relationships versus the technical skills, because you can teach the technical skills a lot easier than you can the attitude and
Absolutely.
the relationships. And I think that certainly applies here. What are some of the benefits besides success that you've seen in terms of focusing on building that team of right people around you in your personal life?
Uh, well, I'd say, in my personal life, it's, relationships are critical, but I'd say one of the things for our team that are out there, across the country, we take a lot of time to get to know other professionals in our market, and really network to have them help us and we help them. For instance, in a transaction, there's usually an attorney and an accountant on involved on both sides. Well, we take a lot of time getting to know these attorneys and the accountants in the market so we can refer them to the younger dentists or veterinarians so they're well represented. And vice versa, they appreciate working with us, and it seems to go well when we get into a transaction and there's a problem with, inevitably something comes up, like there's a problem with the building we're buying because there's an easement or something like that. And rather than it turning into a fisticuffs, we can actually talk through it because we've worked together on a consistent basis and really come with a fair, a fair resolution to a problem.
Yeah, absolutely. I do want to kind of pivot there, because I'm sure in your business, like in mine, uh, problems happen all the time, and it may not even be something that is specific to what it looks like to run a dental practice. It could be, like you said, an easement for the real estate that's being purchased. What's your thought process in terms of solving those issues and managing egos? Because you're putting two parties together, right? And there's a problem in the middle, managing those egos to making sure that you come to the resolution.
Well, I tell you, one of the things that I've been working on lately that I got away from, and it bit me, is thinking that you can solve it just by email or texting. I've been really working on just picking up the phone, or texting saying, "Hey, we're not going to solve this in texting back and forth. Why don't? How are you free at 6 o'clock tonight? Let's just talk about it." Kind of let cooler heads prevail, and you can get into some email management and some hate emails and stuff like that. I was like, hold on, let's stop. Let's just have a conversation. So I've been really kind of getting old school on that type of thing because I think that's, forwarding emails or back and forth, things can get lost. And there are some people that are good communicators via email, but most people aren't, right? I mean, that the emotion gets stripped away and it looks uglier on email. So I've been focusing on that lately and it's been working out.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I don't know what the demographics are of your partners and employees, but it seems like for my generation and younger, that is a huge hurdle in terms of solving issues or getting past that communication hurdle of just pick up the phone and have a conversation. Is that something that you see if you have, younger partners, employees? Is that something that you see being a generational difference? And if so, how do you kind of coach them through? Guys, it's not intimidating. It's not that scary. Just jump on the phone and have a conversation.
Yeah, I think it's critical. And I think sometimes you have to kind of, we had a speaker at our national sales meeting last year, and this thing stuck with me. He said, you remove yourself from the outcome. When you have something that seems huge at the time and in the heat of battle, say you're trying to get to this closing because that's what you want, that's what the seller wants, and you think that's what the buyer wants. Sometimes you just kind of, I've just gone to the seller and gone, you know what, do you really want to sell to this? Do we really need to do this? And usually that kind of, puts them on their back foot a little bit and like, well, I do, and I really like this person, and I'm like, well, it's not them bringing up this issue. It's the situation, and we got to work through the situation. It's nothing personal,
Yeah.
but sometimes taking it off the table helps you move forward and kind of saying, hey, well, you don't have to do this. So I think sometimes when we feel like we have to do something, we get tense, and that can cause a blurriness of reality, really.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's 100% true, and I'm definitely writing that one down. Remove yourself from the outcome, but also I think we have a tendency to set our expectations incredibly high, which is a good thing. But when, like you said, a situation presents a problem, not the other side of the table, you tend to take it personally, just like
Yeah.
you said. And the reason why I'm kind of hammering on this, I think about it from a residential real estate standpoint, right? Like my wife and I are trying to buy a home, and you, it's amazing. Nashville real estate is just crazy right now,
Yeah.
and has been for the last couple of years. But you try to have a conversation with a seller, and the market's shifted over the last 12 to 24 months. And when you present comps that say that the value is different than what it was 18 months ago, they don't love that. Um, and so I've been thinking about this a lot lately for more personal reasons than business, but there are a lot of similarities there. And it's just, I don't know, it's just been something that's been on my mind a lot lately. Of it's not personal, right? It's a business
Right.
decision for you. It's a business decision for me on whether or not we move forward with this purchase of a home. But at the end of the day, it's a situation. It's not me, pointing something out. So that's just a little tangent there on the side.
No, that's real. And, but I think the challenge is it is personal. I mean, the person that's moving, it'll be a heavy lift when we move from our house because we've been there for 20 years and we built it and we raised our kids there and things like that. And, when somebody's like, well, I'm not going to pay X for that because this is the comp, you're kind of like, well, you know, it's hard to put yourself in their shoes. Like they don't have those memories. They don't care. They just want to,
Yeah.
they want your house. Right. But it is personal. And I think that's the thing that I love about this business is because it is personal. It is a life work and they really care. And we have closings where we bring champagne and half the time there's tears. I mean, it's pretty cool. So that's one of the best things about our job is being at those life events for these people.
Yeah, absolutely. So what are some of the challenges that you've seen in this who not how mindset, building, people around you and putting together a great team?
I mean, I think the biggest challenge is making sure we're delivering the value to all the people that are on our team. I mean, we have a responsibility. I feel that if they're investing in our business, we got to always be on the cutting edge. And like I mentioned, I've added staff. I've got a full staff now, and my director of marketing and we spent a lot of time just trying to be ahead of the competition on what we're doing and how we're doing it. And you can't just rely on Google ranking to say, hey, we're doing a great job. You really got to dive into what's being said and how you're being perceived, and that's not easy. And everything moves so fast these days. um, it, you know every little thing matters. So it's just important to, that's the biggest challenge is kind of staying ahead of the competition, without knowing, not having comparisons at the top.
Yeah.
It's really hard.
How do you define value within your business?
I mean, I would just say it's pretty simple with ours because when we get into situations where they're trying to decide to hire us or someone else, or if we're able to bring value to enough opportunities where the seller is choosing what they really want, because when they start with us, they don't know, they don't have any idea how this is going to play out or who it's going to be. So I'd say the biggest value is that they say, you got the right person, you made the right match. I mean, it's the name of DDS Match. It's our company. So um, it's and until they meet that person, they're not usually super confident on the process. I mean, they're confident in us because of our brand, or maybe they know the DDS Match professional in their market. But when they meet that person, that's when the light goes on, and then that's when it's a lot easier. We joke that it goes from being a transaction to more of a transition. And that's important to us to make sure that, because we've got staff members that work there that don't know this is even going on. We have patients that are there that don't even know this is going on. When that client writes that letter to say, hey, I'm retiring after 40 years, we want them to, what they put in that letter, we want it to matter. We
Yeah,
want it to be,
absolutely. I mean, I'm sure in most of these situations, they've built personal relationships over those 40 years, where they want to make sure that those relationships are in great hands.
yeah,
So it is certainly more of a transition than transaction in a lot of ways. You've mentioned the word process a couple of times, and I love how focused you are on it, and it's something that is important to me, specifically in terms of finding processes that work within a certain situation and migrating them over into something else. So, for instance, you had this process that worked on the dental side, and you've now migrated it over into the veterinarian side as well. Um, what does building a process look like to you? How often are you refining it, building on upon it, and reevaluating it?
No, we're always looking at it. We haven't changed much other than added a few things. We have two processes. One is the trusted transition process, which is for the dentist or the veterinarian who's looking to sell in the next couple years. And then we have a longer one, and it's a practice optimizer experience, or the hospital opportunity experience. And that is more of like a consulting type thing, which leads to a sale. It's more of a preparation, where the trusted transition process is just giving them the road before we start, to know this is what leads to it. And it helps us tell our story of, we've done this so many times. But just like, any marathon, you got to start by the takeoff. So we're just kind of defining what direction we're going to go, the map on how we're going to get there, versus just running around. And it's been great, and our evolution of it's not been much. We've been pretty stalwart on keeping it similar. We've added a couple services to give more transparency to the buyers, some new things to add to that, but in general, it's been similar for 15 years.
Yeah, and you mentioned that information comes at you fast and things change quickly, and so you have this process that has been the same for 15 years. How are you incorporating this whole change in information flow and technology into that process?
Well, the newest thing we did is we've been able, with technology, to get more of a deeper look into the practices and the hospitals we represent with different partners. So, for instance, any seller is going to say there's a ton of opportunity here. I don't do this. I don't do this. I could do it. I just don't want to. I haven't gone to the CE to get it done, or I just don't have the energy because I'm focused on what I've done. So it's easy. Any seller says that, and any, DDS match or DVM match professional is going to say there's a ton of potential here. We've been able to find some partners that have been able to take that data and turn it into, pie charts and bar charts to show, if you did this, this is what's here. For these practices, because they don't do these procedures, if you did this, like, let's say you wanted to do this, there's so much. This is what the dollar potential is, and that's been great, because I also don't want to represent an opportunity to someone who can't do it. If majority of the revenue is in this one category and they don't like doing that, then they need to step away, because I don't want to sell something to someone and have them fail because they're not skilled enough to do it, or that's not their passion. So showing, more data, more transparency, more opportunity when it comes to the opportunities is really critical for us, because it helps us really define who's the best buyer anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's great. And probably where we'll end it, except for the fact of you've been doing this for a long time, been incredibly successful. One of the people that I look up to most, highly suggested having this conversation. What's the one piece of advice that you would give an entrepreneur that's just starting out, trying to emulate the success that you've had over the since you started? What's that one piece of advice that you would give to them?
I mean, I think the biggest thing is, it's worth it to bet on yourself. Um, there's a great quote. I'll bring it up. I mean, I know I'm on the spot here, but I've got it in my favorites. But whenever a new person joins our team, I send them this quote, and it says, "Entrepreneurship is living a few years of your life like most people won't, so that you can spend the rest of your life like most people can't." And that was by a guy by the name of Dick Lear, and I saw that at a coaching thing. I took a snapshot of it, and it's an incredible piece. So, betting on yourself is hard, and obviously not everything works out. There's business propositions that don't work out all the time, but I think it's important, if you've got the skill set and you've got the people skills, it's just a matter of time till you're successful.
Yeah, I love that. So y'all, bet on yourself, take calculated risks. And Thad, thanks for joining us today, man. I
Hey,
look
thanks for the
forward
opportunity, Jared.
to listening to it again.
Yeah, take care.
All right, have a good one.